Alright, today I'm going to show you two videos with two different ways I edit the backdrops in my photographs. So sometimes when you're using the smaller backdrops, you'll have to create more of a backdrop, if that makes sense. Or you can crop it, just depending on the orientation you want. But sometimes, well, I prefer the horizontal, like landscape orientation versus the portrait for most of my photos. So for this one, you're going to want to open up in Photoshop, and you can do that right from Lightroom. And so the first way I edit them, this is the long, complicated way. So you're going to take your clone tool and you're just going to kind of brush over the spots where you want the backdrop to go in. And, sometimes it doesn't work, but I do it so much that I think Photoshop just kind of knows now. So don't worry if it's a little messy, because we're gonna smooth everything out in a little bit. So my camera's dirty, so I always have little spots that show up. I got to get it cleaned. So you want to kind of try to smooth out as much as you can. If you can't get all the creases out, it's not a big deal. That's the whole point of this. So you're going to make two copies of your layer, and that is going to be on a MacBook. It's going to be Command J to make a copy. I don't know. I use a MacBook, so if you have Windows, I don't know what the shortcut is, probably Control J. But you can just make two copies by right-clicking on the layer and make a copy, make a copy. So the first copy, what you're going to want to do is hide it to where it says layer 1 copy. Just hide that one and then just stay on layer 1 for now. So go to layer 1, and then you're going to trace around, if I can do it right, you're going to trace around what you want to keep in focus. And you want to leave a little bit of a gap. You don't want to go completely against it, because you want to be able to get the fur and everything. So then you want to go to Edit, Fill, make sure it's on Content Aware, and it's going to fill it. And hopefully, if it works right, it's just going to make it the same color as the backdrop. So it usually takes a little bit. And then if it doesn't work, obviously you can take your clone tool, go back in and go over, or you can, circle around whatever you need to and fill some more. So there you go. So click it so it's gone, and then you want to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. I think that's how you say it, Gaussian. And then you want to adjust it to where you're kind of happy with it. You don't want it all the way blurred out, because then you'll get banding. But you do want it to be nice and blurred so it's smooth. Now unhide that first filter, or the first layer. Go to Filter, Convert, Smart Filters. And this usually takes a second too. Okay, and once it's converted, then you'll go back to Filter. And then you'll go to Other, and you'll go to High Pass. This, you want to just be able to see a little bit of detail. I usually keep it on 2.0. That keeps me pretty happy. And then you'll go and you'll hit Overlay, and then you'll hit Alt or Option, and then click, and then go to that layer and hit Layer Mask, and then you'll go to your painting brush. You make sure it's on 100%, and here you can see the outline of the dog. And so basically now, you're just going to brush the dog back in. Now you might lose some of the hair, but for the most part, I don't usually have too much trouble keeping the detail in there. Oops. Make sure you're on that layer mask when you're brushing them back in. So when you're on the layer mask, you want to make sure you're using black to brush in, and if you need to go over it and get rid of some of it, you can switch to white, and that'll take it away. And so you're just going to go over the dog. I like to go over the edges first and use it like smaller to get the fine details around the edge, and then I usually make the brush bigger to do the middle, just because I'm not very patient. So I want to get it done as fast as possible, especially if you're doing 20, 30 of these at a time. It gets pretty draining. But paper backdrops, they're great to use, because if the dog pees on them or drools or rips it, you can just rip it and keep going. So this technique I use when the backdrops are really dirty. There's a lot of hair, there's a lot of crinkling, because the backdrops are expensive, and so I try to get the most that I can out of them, I guess. Because you can Photoshop it, I like to use them until they look pretty gross, honestly. They're expensive. So here's my impatient coming in. And then just brush the rest of it in. If you look down at the layer mask, it'll show you if you've missed any spots. So brush it in. And then if you want to bring some of the shadows back, because obviously you don't want it to look like it's just floating there, you'll switch your brush to about, 30 to 40% opacity, and then just kind of go around where the shadows are. If you keep clicking over and over again, it'll get darker and darker, instead of having to go back and keep adjusting it. And then, so like that spot right there, I just wanted to get, rid of some of the light blue that was coming in from the old backdrop. So take the white and then you just kind of brush it, and then it'll darken a little bit. So there you go. That is how I do my first backdrop. Alright, here we have a little bit of an easier backdrop to do. So if your backdrop's not super dirty, then you can do this way. So basically take your clone tool, get rid of my dirt spots that I have on there, any of the pretty noticeable things that are going to be on the backdrop. You don't have to get too crazy with it because this method pretty much gets rid of all the hair and crap. But I'm a little OCD, so I just want to get rid of some of the stuff that I wouldn't want in the photo. So now for the easy way, all you're going to do is make one copy, go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, get it to where you want it to without banding or blowing it out too much, and then you'll hit OK, and then you'll do a layer mask. And then you'll basically just brush the dog back in. So once you do the layer mask, make sure you're on black so you can brush back in. Make sure your brush is at 100%. Because see, I have mine at 35, so you want to make sure it's at 100%. And then just brush around the dog and brush the dog back in. And so that'll leave your background blurred, but then you'll be able to make your dog nice and clear. Or person, because this will work for anything. So this way I like, because if it's not too dirty, then this is a nice and easy way. It only takes a couple seconds instead of having to do the super long way on every single photo and then, an hour later and you've only done 2 photos. So this is a little bit easier, a little less time consuming, and you still pretty much get the same result. Don't mind Lavender barking in the background. She wants to go outside really bad. But please make sure you like and subscribe. That way you can stay up to date on all the videos. I'm going to be posting more behind the scenes. A lot of outdoor ones will be coming soon. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and sorry my voice is so terrible.